Cybill Shepherd was more than just a Hollywood icon. She was a force, her golden hair sparkling like the southern sun, her face worth $1 million. Her debut role wasn't just a performance, it was a seismic shift in the film industry. In the years that followed, Cibil graced the Golden Globe stage not once, but multiple times. Critics, audiences, and Hollywood itself were captivated by a star they believed was born to shine. But in the brutal glare of fame, the very spotlight that once elevated her would eventually consume her. A whirlwind of passionate, yet scandalous affairs. A controversial romance with a married director. Confrontations with the shadowy power structures of television. These were just some of the forces that pulled Cybill Shepherd from the summit of stardom to the edge of rejection. When the applause finally died down, Cibil was left with a battle no script could ever prepare her for. Malignant skin cancer that caused pain so excruciating it felt unbearable, and the stark loneliness that comes when you're once too famous to be forgiven. But why did a star with such promise fade so quickly? What drove Cibill's raw, unapologetic journey, a story told in her memoir Cybill Disobedience, to end with a bold decision to leave nothing hidden anymore? Now, you're about to uncover the reasons behind it all. Born on February 18, 1950, in Memphis, Tennessee, Cybill Lynn Shepherd grew up in a quiet, conservative city. Raised in a middle-class family, her father, William Shepherd, was a small business owner, and her mother, Patty, a homemaker. She was the middle child of 3, with an older sister, Terry, and a younger brother, William. Her name, Cibil, was an interesting blend, C from her grandfather and Bill from her father. It wasn't a name you'd forget. And, as fate would have it, this strange name would soon become synonymous with one thing: Hollywood fame. From the start, Cibil stood out. Her platinum blonde hair, striking fair skin, and expressive eyes made it impossible not to notice her. But what really set her apart wasn't just her beauty, it was her personality. In a world of Southern belles who waited to be courted, Cibil made her own rules. She chased after who she liked, not the other way around. And yes, she even skipped school once to audition for a modeling job, an act that could have gotten her suspended, but she didn't care. Cibil, life was about standing out, not fitting in. In 1966, at just 16, Cibil entered the Miss Teenage Memphis pageant. She won, and later represented the city in the Miss Teenage America contest. Though she didn't make the final cut, she did win Miss Congeniality, a recognition that showed there was more to her than just a pretty face. This likability would carry her far, though at times, it also made her vulnerable to exploitation. At 18, she had already been named Model of the Year, and her face graced the cover of Glamour magazine. Single moment would change everything. Director Peter Bogdanovich was in a supermarket, casually flipping through magazines, when he saw Cibill's face staring back at him. He immediately called her agency, eager to know, who is this girl? Later, Cibil was invited to audition for The Last Picture Show. It was her first ever screen test. But it would also be the moment her private life was thrust under a magnifying glass. Cibil didn't arrive in Hollywood on the coattails of others. She earned her place. With grit, determination, and a refusal to live a mediocre life, Cibil made her own way, and in doing so, she became one of the most admired and feared women in the business. Her debut in The Last Picture Show in 1971 would forever change cinema. Directed by Peter Bogdanovich, the film was groundbreaking, unflinching in its portrayal of youth, sexuality, and the complexities of life in a small town. Cibil's portrayal of J.C. Farrow, a beautiful yet cold young woman, left an indelible mark on the audience. At just 21, she had a now iconic nude scene, undressing in a living room, the glass revealing both body and vulnerability. She was untrained, raw, but completely captivating. This performance earned her a Golden Globe nomination for New Star of the Year, an extraordinary achievement for a model with no formal acting background. And the film, 8 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, and 2 wins. To this day, The Last Picture Show is considered one of the greatest American films ever made. But for Cibil, this was just the beginning. Hollywood now recognized her as a phenomenon, not just a model turned actress. She had proven that beauty couldn't be boxed in, controlled, or defined. In countless interviews, producers openly admitted that without Cibil, Moonlighting would never have found its unique voice. She didn't just star in the show, she helped shape its fast-paced, witty, and layered dialogue, a distinctive style that would later inspire countless others. However, while the show soared on screen, tensions behind the scenes began to rise. Between Cybill Shepherd and Bruce Willis, the very pair that made Moonlighting a cultural touchstone, the friction grew more visible. What started as small disagreements soon erupted into direct confrontations. Both were headstrong, opinionated, and neither was willing to back down. Curtis Armstrong, a co-star on the show, wrote in his memoir that those two were constantly at odds. While Bruce was often hailed as the easygoing, guy's guy, Cibil was labeled difficult, despite both being worn down by the show's grueling demand. When a man raises his voice, he's seen as decisive. When a woman speaks up, she's called a diva, Cibil later remarked in a candid interview. At the same time, Cibil's personal life was also evolving. Pregnant with twins, her growing family delayed production, but instead of sympathy, the media blamed her for the show's declining momentum. Meanwhile, Bruce Willis was rising to stardom with Die Hard, and his shifting priorities meant they were spending less and less time together on set. The on-screen chemistry that once defined their relationship began to fade, as off-screen, they could barely look at each other. The breaking point came during the final seasons, when both the writing and the working atmosphere became suffocating. Once hailed as a groundbreaking creative force, Moonlighting was officially cancelled in 1989. From the outside, it seemed like Cibil had successfully transitioned from film to TV, reaching new heights and winning back-to-back Golden Globe. But behind closed doors, she was grappling with immense pressure, gender bias, and increasingly bitter clashes with her co-star. The dynamic that had once been electric had become strained, with a partnership that went from seamless to unrecognizable. She once said, "I don't regret the tensions on Moonlighting. Without them, the screen wouldn't have felt that real." But, as she admitted, the price was high. And after Moonlighting, Cybill Shepherd knew one undeniable truth. No success comes without its shadow. The brighter the spotlight, the darker the silhouette behind it. In 1995, Cibil returned to television with a show that bore her name, Cibil. This time, she had full creative control. The sitcom centered on Cybill Sheridan, a once famous middle-aged actress, now juggling casting calls for mother-in-law roles, raising her children, and battling an industry obsessed with youth. Cibil herself put it, "The character was me, only saying everything I used to hold back." It was a bold response from a woman once revered as a beauty icon, only to be cast aside once her looks began to fade. She didn't just star in the series, she co-produced it, helping to shape the tone, the message, and the heart of the show. And Cibil triumphed. Cibil became an instant phenomenon because it voiced things women over 40 had never been allowed to say on mainstream TV. It tackled topics like ex-husbands, midlife sexuality, Hollywood's double standards, the replacement of older actresses with younger ones, single motherhood, and the unspoken loneliness that often accompanies it. The show was deep satire, with a feminist twist that drew comparisons to Lucille Ball's comedic genius. Critics even dubbed her the Lucille Ball of the 90s. Cibil earned her third Golden Globe for the role, and her co-star Christine Baranski won for Best Supporting Actress. Cibil also garnered 12 Emmy nominations and remained in CBS's top 20 most watched shows during its first 3 seasons. But beyond the commercial success, Cibil had an undeniable cultural impact. Cibil paved the way for shows like The Good Wife, Grace and Frankie, and Big Little Lies, where older women weren't sidelined but placed at the center of the story. But there was more to this journey than success. In a 2018 interview, Christine Baranski revealed something Cibil had never spoken about publicly. The show was abruptly cancelled after Cibil turned down a sexual advance from Les Moonves, then the powerful CEO of CBS. During a private dinner, Moonves, who had been drinking, suggested Cibil let him give her a ride home. He politely declined. He began interfering with the show's content, made unreasonable demands, and eventually ordered its cancellation, despite the existing contract. Years later, Moonves would be accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women, and forced to resign from his position at CBS. Cibil's story, which had once been ignored, was now recognized as a chilling example of the power structures that oppressed women in Hollywood for decades. Though she never received an apology, Cibil never waited for one either. In a public talk, she candidly said, "If I had said yes that night, maybe Cibil would have lasted a few more seasons. But I wasn't here to trade my dignity for a few more episodes of a sitcom." While the peaks of 1985 and 1995 marked significant milestones in Cibil's television career, her journey wasn't limited to those golden years. Before she became the queen of primetime TV, Cibil had already carved out a striking career in film. The Heartbreak Kid, 1972, and Taxi Driver, 1976, proved she was no mere pretty face. She was an actress who could master the art of suppressing emotions and wielding coldness with precision. That period served as a declaration. Cibil wasn't just lucky, she had earned her place. Stepping back for motherhood, she returned quietly to TV with guest roles in the early 80s, most notably on Fantasy Island, 1983. While this wasn't yet a triumphant return, it was a quiet stepping stone leading to the breakthrough that would come 2 years later with Moonlighting. At the same time, Cibil was exploring another artistic outlet, music. Her debut jazz album, released in 1974, wasn't a commercial hit, but it showcased another side of her, persistent, unfazed by trends, and willing to remain true to her craft. Even after Cibil was cancelled, Cybill Shepherd didn't stop. She continued to act, not always in leading roles, but always leaving a mark. Most notably, she portrayed a mother supporting her lesbian daughter on the L Word. Throughout the 2000s, she appeared in guest spots on shows like Psych, Criminal Minds, and No Ordinary Family. Simultaneously, she released more jazz albums, like Cibil Gets Better, 1992, and At Long Last Love, 2006, always staying true to her artistry, never pandering to mass market formulas. Looking back on her entire career, it's clear that Cibil was never defined by a single moment in time. She was an artist whose every chapter, loud or quiet, grand or humble, was a testament to resilience. She shone, she burned, and then she glowed again in her own way. Before Cybill Shepherd became a household name, she was a young model trying to carve out a place in the entertainment industry. In her memoir Civil Disobedience, she recalls living in New York, studying art and anthropology, and coming to believe that shame around nudity was a cultural construct. This belief would later influence one of her most significant decisions, accepting the role of JC in The Last Picture Show, which included a controversial nude scene. At the time, Cibil was dating John Bruno, a wealthy restaurateur who loved Ferraris. When he learned about the nude scene, he bluntly said, "If you do that scene, I'll never marry you." They broke up soon after. It marked the beginning of a pattern in Cibil's relationships, pursuing her passion, no matter the consequences. Her relationships, often complicated and full of turbulence, seemed to reflect the inner conflict that Cybill Shepherd grappled with throughout her life. Despite the fame and success, there was always a deeper sense of yearning, a desire for connection that she struggled to find, especially in the men who entered and exited her life. Each relationship marked a chapter of her personal evolution, from the passionate but destructive partnership with Peter Bogdanovich, to the fleeting but intense dalliances with figures like Elvis Presley and Don Johnson. With each encounter, Cibil seemed to seek something more than fleeting satisfaction, something deeper than the allure of fame and the superficial connections of Hollywood. She explored love and intimacy not just in the public eye, but in the most private, often painful ways. Her marriages, too, reflected a pattern of searching for security and companionship but being unable to escape the undercurrents of her past experiences. Her first marriage to David Ford ended in infidelity, with Cibil gaining full custody of their daughter, Clementine, but also a deepening sense of loss. Her second marriage to chiropractor Bruce Oppenheim seemed to promise stability, but the pressures of fame and her own inner turmoil led to its dissolution just a few years later. Cibil's ability to reflect on her past with such raw honesty in her memoirs, Civil Disobedience, showcased a woman unafraid to confront the consequences of her own desires and mistakes. Her admission that she wasn't sorry for the wild, reckless parts of her youth revealed her unwillingness to apologize for living life fully, without regret. Yet, it was in these very struggles that Cibil grew into someone more defined by her motherhood and her own healing. She might have been a woman defined by the chaos of her personal relationships, but over time, she became a mother who found purpose and peace in raising her children. Her role as a mother, complicated by the very choices she had made in her own life, became her anchor. In the wake of her second marriage's collapse and her failed engagements, Cibil turned inward, seeking solace and strength in her faith, eventually finding a sense of peace that had eluded her in her younger years. She had loved passionately, lived freely, and made mistakes. Yet as she grew older, she found that love wasn't just about romantic relationships but about the enduring love she felt for her children, her friends, and herself. In these phases, Cibil remained unafraid to confront the truth of her experiences. Even as Hollywood moved on from her, Cibil carved out a life for herself, one where she could finally live without the pressure of being the object of constant attention or judgment. Her story wasn't just about fame and heartbreak. It was about the resilience of a woman who was never afraid to face her scars and stand up for what she believed in, even when it meant walking away from everything she had known. Later years, especially after the public scrutiny of her early career had faded, were quieter but no less impactful. Cibil's engagement with her faith and her health struggles, the battle with skin cancer, the years of undiagnosed pain from IBS, became a testament to her inner strength. She became a voice for others facing similar battles, speaking out to break the taboo surrounding women's health issues. Now, living a more private life in Los Angeles, Cybill Shepherd's legacy is one of courage, courage to be real, to embrace vulnerability, and to confront the shadows of her past. Her journey from a scandalous starlet to a grounded, wise woman who has lived through it all is a powerful reminder of the strength that can come from accepting who we truly are, even in the face of immense pain and public judgment. At 75, Cibil is no longer the bombshell leading lady in films or television, but her story is far from over. She's lived more authentically than many of her peers, and in doing so, she's found peace not in the eyes of the world, but in the quiet moments of reflection, motherhood, and healing. Her experiences, once full of turmoil and longing, now stand as a tribute to resilience and the kind of strength that can only be forged through living boldly, without apology. It's too late to start lying about my age. This declaration marked a significant shift in Cybill Shepherd's approach to life. No longer consumed by the fear of what others might think, she embraced the reality of aging with honesty and courage. At 55, following her health crisis, Cibil was more open than ever about the struggles she faced, whether it was the pain from her irritable bowel syndrome or the ongoing battle with skin cancer. These experiences only deepened her connection with others, especially women who also carried invisible burdens of their own. The abdominal attack in 2007 was a pivotal moment in Cibill's life. After collapsing from the excruciating pain, she thought she was facing the end. But instead of succumbing to the fear and uncertainty, she underwent multiple surgeries and spent months recovering. This experience not only reinforced her resilience but also sparked a new phase of her life where vulnerability became her strength. By publicly speaking out about her health issues, Cibil shifted the narrative about aging and illness, challenging the silence that often surrounds women's health. Her transparency helped countless women feel seen and heard, reminding them that it's okay to acknowledge our struggles and be open about them. She became a spokesperson for the Great Women campaign, advocating for greater awareness about irritable bowel syndrome and the often ignored health conditions that many women suffer from in silence. Her candidness in discussing such private matters also extended to topics like menopause. At one event, when meeting strangers at a party, she boldly asked, "How's menopause treating you?" Her lack of shame in speaking about these things might have made others uncomfortable, but it was also a reminder that breaking down the taboos around aging and women's health was necessary. For Cibil, it was never about pretending to be perfect or hiding behind a carefully constructed image. It was about living truthfully. This new phase in her life, filled with a mix of pain and acceptance, also allowed Cibil to rediscover joy. Her grandchildren brought a softness and warmth to her life, grounding her in the love of family that had always been a constant. Cibil's journey was a testament to the power of love, loss, and resilience, an ongoing evolution that found her in a place of peace and self-acceptance. The quiet return to the stage in 2015, when she performed at Catalina Jazz Club, was a symbolic act, Cibil showing that she was still here, still capable of connection and expression, even if she no longer sought the spotlight. At 75, Cybill Shepherd wasn't chasing fame or adoration. Instead, she was seeking meaning on her own terms, living a life that was as unfiltered and raw as the woman she had always been. Through the ups and downs, the love, the heartbreak, and the illness, Cybill Shepherd had come to realize that true freedom wasn't just about rejecting societal norms or fame. It was about embracing who she was, without apologies. In a world that often asks women to be perfect, Cibil had found a different kind of beauty, the beauty of living authentically, regardless of judgment. As she continues to live her life with honesty and openness, she serves as a reminder to all that it's never too late to live true to yourself, to love without hesitation, and to rise after every fall. Despite everything she endured, Cybill Shepherd had always believed that love, real love, in all its messiness and imperfection, was worth every risk. That's a lesson that resonates far beyond her years in the limelight. Cybill Shepherd's life is a powerful example of living authentically, embracing both fame and failure with courage. Hollywood spotlight to a quieter, more introspective existence, she has always been unapologetically herself. At 75, she no longer seeks Hollywood's validation, choosing instead to live on her own terms, finding joy in her family, health advocacy, and love of music. Her resilience shines through in her openness about her battles with IBS, skin cancer, and past mistakes. Cibil has never shied away from her imperfections, turning setbacks, including Golden Raspberry Awards, into badges of honor. She teaches us that it's not about avoiding failure, but about rising after each fall. In her memoir Cybill Disobedience, she boldly shares her life's rawness, showing that true freedom lies in embracing vulnerability. Despite Hollywood's misunderstandings, she found peace in not needing its approval. Career, marked by peaks and valleys, reflects her bold, unfiltered nature. Today, Cibil continues to inspire by living authentically and embracing joy, reminding us that it's never too late to be true to ourselves. Her message is clear: living truthfully matters, no matter your age or the cost.